Hi there, and welcome to another lunar forecast with me, Manda O'Brien. This time we're discussing the full moon in Sagittarius that's coming up on June 29th. And in this astrology forecast, I'm going to take a look at the shifts and changes. There's many planets that have moved into different signs, and also the new energies and the possible challenges and ways to work with that during this illumination, this climax of this lunar month. So this lunar month began on June 14th with a new moon in Taurus. This was the second new moon in Taurus that we've had this year. And for me, in my experience of this second new moon, was giving us an opportunity to really get clear about our values, our essential values from the inside, our core values that we've been working on throughout this year and actually throughout last year with this Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's been helping us to align and to realign our soul, our intrinsic nature, our natural design with the universe, with nature, with our own true nature, and to come into a deeper experience of alignment where we feel like we're really more on our path. And there's a certain experience of growth and maturity that has come about through the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that we experienced this year in February, where we're able to contact and see our own growth and our own evolution, and that we're not who we were before, that we've shed a lot of what was not who we are, and we've come into a much deeper understanding of who we actually are. So, very powerful year thus far in terms of transformation. And in this lunar month, we're having the climax of this lunar month in Sagittarius, which is a fire sign, which is about our own truth, our individual truth, and also our truth of our experience in terms of our relationships, being that the beginning of this lunar cycle was in the sign of Taurus, an earth sign, which is ruled by Venus and has a lot to do with our relationships, our primary relationships, and also our relationship to ourselves and to the universe in general. Okay, so here we go. You can see the chart here for the full moon in Sagittarius. It's going to be at 10 degrees of Sagittarius. And we are using True Sky sidereal astrology on this channel. The revelation that tropical and Vedic charts are man-made, they're a mathematical system, and they have no accuracy in terms of where the actual planets are in the natural sky. So if you'd like to see where the beginning of Sagittarius is in your birth chart, which house it occupies in your True Sky birth chart, you can go down below in the description and click the link, and you will get your free True Sky birth chart. Take a look and see which house Sagittarius is in, and you'll have more of a sense of where this illumination and new experience of inner truth is showing up for you. So since these last two new moons have been in the earth sign of Taurus, the fixed earth sign of Taurus, we've really had the last couple of months to explore our relationships and our values in relationship so that we can have a more present time experience of our relationships. And also, the opposite of Taurus is Scorpio. So this also has a lot to do with our, experience of intimacy and our ability to be vulnerable and to share ourselves in a more raw and intimate way, because that is the polarity point of Taurus. So as we come into this full moon, this illumination, this halfway point in the lunar month, where these energies began in Taurus and have been building and have now are culminating in Sagittarius, this brings us to realizations of our own truth. We might be aware of belief systems that have been operating in our relationships, in the way that we relate to ourselves, that are not based on our own direct experience, that are not who we are, but are just ideas that we picked up or that were programmed or conditioned into the mind at a young age, that we can now see clearly and allow those to dissolve so that we can bring in our own version, our own direct experience of what's true for us. So some of the shifts that have happened since the new moon is that Jupiter has moved into the sign of Cancer. And Jupiter is very powerful in the sign of Cancer. He's exalted there. Jupiter is what brings expansion into our life. It's what brings opportunities, and it gives us the bigger picture. It gives us the opportunity to feel like we're connected with all of life. It rules long distance travel and spirituality and the exploration of spirituality. And we have it here opposite to Pluto. So this, to me, Pluto is retrograde right now in Capricorn, an earth sign, and Capricorn obviously being the opposite of Cancer. That's a polarity that we're working with very strongly during this new moon cycle, and at the full moon in particular. So we have Jupiter there in Cancer, opposite to Pluto. This is going to give us the opportunity to face and to experience and to uncover the themes around Cancer. This has to do with family themes, or our relationship with our family, with our home where we grew up, and also with our ancestry. And with this opposition, we may find that we may contact with some deeper levels of ideas, some deeper levels of belief systems that have been operating unconsciously, that we're now able to see with this illumination. And just in the seeing of them, there is transformation and the opportunity to see that we no longer need to be affected by these unconscious belief systems. And it's not to say that, what we get from our heritage, from our family, from our ancestry is negative. But there are aspects of it that will not be true for us, because this is based on the past. And we're in the present. And the present is always new, unless we're allowing the past unconsciously to affect our perception and to affect our ability to see and experience the new. So I feel like this is a very beautiful aspect, actually, that Jupiter, before we can really expand into what Jupiter is presenting, we're being given the opportunity for it to be a real, true expansion. Not just an idea, not just a philosophy, because that can be the shadow side of Jupiter. Belief versus direct experience and knowing. We're being given the opportunity here to know who we are in a deeper way. And Pluto's supporting that process by mirroring with Jupiter this energy on this Cancer-Capricorn polarity. So some of the other influences we have here, we have the Sun in Gemini. And in Gemini, the Sun is bringing our awareness to our mind, to our mental process, and also to our relationship with our local environment, our business, our ordinary life in the world, in the marketplace, you could say. It can bring in new opportunities in this area. It can bring in new communications. If you're an artist or a writer or a musician, it can bring in new expressions that you share with the world, new creations that come through expression, through communication. And it can also bring in a new balance between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain, the male and female mind, logic and intuition. And with the moon being in Sagittarius, I would say that there's a lot of access here. The moon is reflecting the light of the sun. So the moon is traveling through the constellation of Sagittarius, and it's reflecting the light of the sun in Gemini. The moon, in many ways, is showing us what's going on deep beneath the surface, our feelings, our emotions. And with the sun in Gemini, with that light being reflected, we can actually have a lot of clarity about what's going on beneath the surface emotionally. With the sun in Gemini can give us access to the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, being the moon. So we can have a deeper understanding of the relationship between our unconscious and our conscious mind, and how the conscious mind can suppress the unconscious. It can interfere with us getting in touch with what we're not aware of in ourselves by repressing or suppressing that energy. So with this illumination, with this full moon, we have the opportunity to get in touch with what we may have been suppressing, what we may not have seen, may not have been able to reveal to ourselves. We may be feeling it, but we may not be able to clearly understand it. So this full moon will give us the illumination that we need to have a deeper understanding of what we're feeling in our lives at this time, and especially in relation to the difference between what we're actually experiencing directly and what's just coming from past beliefs. Because Gemini also, being connected, being an air sign, being connected with the mind can be just a collection of past ideas. But if we can tune into the present moment, then we can tune in to what's actually happening now, and we can perceive life through the present experience versus through the past experience. And that's a very powerful opportunity, to really step into the new, into the present, into the unknown, and to allow our emotions, our feelings to reveal themselves to us in their truth, in their realness, and to experience that, to experience ourselves that way. We have Mercury here approaching the end of Gemini. Mercury is about our communication. It also has to do with how we're using our expression, how we're thinking, and how we're perceiving ordinary daily life. So with Mercury in Gemini, he's very strong here. So there can be a lot of energy in the mind with Mercury here. To balance that, we can spend more time in nature, spend more time being aware of the body experience, being aware of how the body is affected by the mind. Because this new moon began in Taurus, which is very much about the body. This position of Mercury can reveal to us how our thinking and our beliefs, Sagittarius, are affecting our physical experience with our body, our relationship with our body. And this can be very transformational, to be able to see how we are allowing the mind to cause stress in the body can be a very powerful way of releasing that and breaking that connection and having more freedom to enjoy being in the body and freeing the body from the domination of the mind. So Venus has recently been transiting through Cancer, and Cancer is a very small constellation. You can see up there at the top of the chart. It's when we're using the true sky, we're using the true sizes, and Cancer is very small. So Venus is already at 4 degrees of Leo during this full moon, which is a really beautiful place for her to be during all the various energies that are being awakened and activated at this time. In Leo, she's very colorful, very generous, very joyful, very playful. There can be a lot of celebration around this full moon. And we're also having the summer solstice at this time as well, a week before this full moon. So Venus there in Leo is really speaking to giving yourself some quality love and attention, spoiling yourself, appreciating yourself, loving yourself, and luxuriating in whatever is enjoyable to you, relaxing with life, celebrating life. This is a beautiful placement for Venus to be after coming through Cancer, which is a much more sensitive, we may have been feeling in the couple of weeks before this full moon, since the beginning of the new moon in the middle of June, we may have been feeling a deeper level of sensitivity and protectiveness around our heart and our feelings and our relationships and our home. But now, with Venus moved into Leo here, we can celebrate and come out of ourselves more and feel safe and appreciative of who we are and share that with other people. So that's a beautiful energy here, along with this Sagittarius energy. And Venus is trine to Black Moon Lilith down there in Ophiuchus. So there's a very strong feminine quality to this transit of Venus when she's got this connection to the Black Moon Lilith, which has to do with freeing the suppressed feminine energy, whether you be male or female. Freeing that energy and finding the places in ourselves where we haven't been loving ourselves and appreciating our more outgoing, more dramatic qualities of who we are, to bring that into reality with this trine, to express, to allow ourselves to be a little bit louder, a little bit more playful, a little bit more colorful, and to enjoy that, and to give ourselves permission to kind of step out of whatever box we may feel we're in at certain times because of our beliefs, Sagittarius, from the past, or because of our programming from the past that's being held in the mind, Gemini, that this gives us an opportunity to actually flow more from a more childlike place. Leo is the child. It's the fifth house. It's about playfulness. And this full moon has that quality. And also, as we move beyond the full moon into the third quarter of the lunar cycle, this energy is going to continue with Venus. And we can bring this new childlike, playful, lighter aspect of who we are, bring it more into our lives, more into our expression. The moon is also making a trine to Chiron in Pisces. So this can be a very healing moon for us. We can find that we have easier access to what's true for us. We can hear the voice of our soul within ourselves more clearly, and it may be bringing us healing messages of some kind. So I would say during this full moon and during the few days after it, to just listen and tune in and see if there's any messages coming from within yourself to do with whatever healing process you're in at this time. We also have Mars in Taurus getting closer to Uranus in Taurus. Mars in Taurus is a beautiful energy. It slows Mars down. It gives our action a little bit more groundedness. It gives us the opportunity to take action in a more relaxed way. And as it gets closer to Uranus, we're going to feel this electrifying quality to our action. This can be a very good time to make sure that you stay grounded, that you stay connected with nature. Uranus can be a little overwhelming to the nervous system, especially while the sun is in Gemini, which rules the mind. So it's good to be aware over the next couple of weeks as we move off this full moon and head towards the next new moon, which will be in the middle of July in Gemini, to just pay more attention and take more action in terms of slowing down, making sure we're staying grounded, connected to our body, and enjoying taking action as opposed to putting pressure on ourselves or being scattered. Uranus conjunct Mars can create kind of a scattered energy because Uranus adds so much intensity to our action. So it's a good time for inspiration and innovation and for coming up with new and original ways to do things. But on the challenging side, it can be overwhelming if it's too much. So I would just say over the next few weeks, just if you feel overwhelmed by the mind wanting to do, and the to-do lists, and just put it down for a second, take off your shoes, stand on the earth, listen to the birds, come back to the slow pace of nature, and that'll help you to ground whatever inspiration Uranus is bringing in. It's a beautiful aspect, but can be quite a wild one to work with. We also have the moon trine to Chiron, and this is beautiful. Over these few days of the full moon to really tune into our inner voice. And it's not actually a voice in my experience, it's more of a knowing or an urge or just a natural inspiration. But the moon trine to Chiron means that we could have some very deep understandings during these few days before and after the full moon of our inner process, of our healing journey, wherever we may be at in that journey, whatever issues we may be dealing with, whether it be in our mind, in our relationships, in our body, in the world. Chiron has some messages, some healing messages from our soul, Pisces, where Chiron is, that can be very nourishing and deeply needed at this time, to tune into that compassionate, self-loving connection to the universe that's beyond the mind, beyond what we've been programmed, what the mind has been programmed to believe or to perceive, that come from our true nature, from our soul, and from our natural connection to the universe. So this is a beautiful aspect that we might see if we're paying attention and listening, inner listening. We may get some clarity around our healing journey. And last but not least, the full moon is making squares to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. So this can bring in a feeling of being challenged by the world or by the demands of the world. Saturn to me in Pisces is really about spiritual mastery, and we may be aware of areas in ourselves where this process is still in the works, because we are a process. It's not that we arrive at some full point in our growth. We're always growing. We're always discovering, releasing, letting go. It's an ongoing process to stay in balance. So just be aware that you may feel the pressure of Saturn, the seriousness. In Pisces, he's more relaxed, more able to go with the flow. But still, if anything comes up in the mind, the Sun in Gemini, or anything comes up in your beliefs around you not living up to your responsibilities or not having discipline, any kind of pattern around self-judgment or self-condemnation, that's something to be aware of with these squares to Saturn and Neptune, that tune into the more compassionate response to yourself if these arise. It's good that they arise. It's good to see what we're carrying in the unconscious, but to respond to it with compassion, and that's what Pisces can give us. So if anything like that does come up, any judgment, self-judgment, or judgment from others, judgment from people we're in relationship with, just to know that we're in a process of growth and self-realization and exploration, and to be kind to ourselves and to be kind to other people if it comes up in conversation, or if we're relating with people where conflict arises, to not take it too seriously, to recognize that we're all in a state of growth, we're all in a process of growth. And what's most important is to know yourself. That's Sagittarius. to look within yourself and to know who you are, and to know the difference between what the mind believes and what the mind has been programmed to believe, and who you are and what is your true, authentic knowing. That's the gift I feel this full moon is bringing to us. So enjoy it. Celebrate it with Venus there in Leo. Relax. Have a good time. Maybe reflect over all the things that have happened internally and externally since the beginning of this year, and just look at where you were at the beginning of this year and where you are now, and how much you've grown and how much you've released and let go of and transformed. And the journey continues. So until the next lunar forecast, the new moon in July 14th in Gemini, thanks for joining me. I also have a couple of other videos on my channel that I've done recently. If you're interested, you can check those out about the outer planet transits. But other than that, wishing you a beautiful, magical, celebrating full moon in Sagittarius. And I look forward to hearing your comments, anything you have to share down below in the comments section. And until then, lots and lots of love from Northern California.